and harmonizing with nature. With over 4 decades of changing lives, your self-discovery archaeologist, get ready to be the best of you with your host, Beverly Zimet.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Beverly Zimet Show, where being the best you is going to get easier today with my returning guest, Moni Castaneda. She's been here a couple of times. She's our Feng Shui queen, and I'm telling you, every time she's on the show, I learn so many new things. For me, Feng Shui has been fascinating because I guess it's the movement of the energy, and when you're once into energy, you're always into energy. But there's so much meaning when you really begin to understand what Feng Shui is all about and how it can make a difference in your life. So today we're going to talk about how can we incorporate Feng Shui in 2021 to help make our surroundings and our life run maybe just a little bit smoother. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to see you.
You know, it's always great when we get together, right?
I know it's a great exchange of energy.
Yes.
Yeah, and it feels, and by now, third time it feels familiar.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, it's so wonderful to be able to meet, beautiful people like yourself, and then have returning because we get such a, compliment and interaction, and people love to hear what you have to say, and especially in the upside down world we're living in right now. So
Yeah.
with 2021, we have this new opportunity to, I guess, start fresh. Take everything that we learned in the shifting and the major upside downs and inside outs and new projections from 2020 and kind of put it behind us and move into that newness of what this year is going to bring for us. So in your business of the Feng Shui, what can people do like to really get that new year started off with a direction and maybe just that little boost to say, feels more comfortable in here now, right?
Yes. I think one of the lessons of 2020 that we all have learned is how important it is to have a home that is harmonious, a home that nurtures you, a home that recharges your battery, not a home that just drains you. And, with so many people having to stay home with lockdowns, stay-at-home orders, and so many people moving to working from home, you can no longer ignore the problems in your home. I think it's easier, if you're working 8 hours or more, to
Right.
just get up, make breakfast, take the kids to school, go to work, come back, and you get into a routine which it's easier, makes it easier to ignore the realities of your home. And this 2020, this past year, it's been just, you can't do that anymore. And you also have been exposed to the homes of many other people, right? And this is one thing that I have mentioned before. It doesn't matter how wealthy a person is. It doesn't matter how much access they have to designers, how luxurious their home is. Feng Shui goes beyond that. Feng Shui goes beyond money. It goes beyond professional help, with designers and things. Feng Shui is about knowing what you need to do in your space so that space becomes a nourishing source for you. So if your home is draining you, if you hate being home, if during the lockdowns you felt trapped, you have bad Feng Shui. It's not the situation, it's not the government, it's not the virus, it's not some hidden cabal that's doing this to you.
I like that.
By not taking care of your home, so you should not feel trapped at home. And it's not, and I know, for people like me, I live in the suburbs in a really peaceful neighborhood, surrounded by beautiful nature. And I have a front yard and a backyard. And I know it's not the same situation, for some of my friends, my clients, relatives who live in apartments.
Right.
But you should not feel trapped at home. The Feng Shui, was created originally so you could have harmony in exterior spaces. But at
Okay.
some point, in China, there was this point where they started making cities bigger. So up to a certain point, about maybe 2200 years ago, China was mostly rural. And then all of a sudden it became urban. So you're having these humongous cities, starting to grow. And then people are being put in these houses that are close together. And all of a sudden you're in boxes. And we're not designed to be in boxes, right? And so Feng Shui took a shift at the time, and it split into two. So one of those was the Compass School of Feng Shui said, we're going to take care of things through astrology and numerology. And then there was the other brand was Form School, which say, no, what we need to do is we need to bring nature into the home. So if you
Okay.
feel trapped when you're home, it's because you don't have enough nature in the home. And so by nature, what do I mean? You're not getting enough sunshine. You're not getting enough fresh air. You don't have live plants. You don't have some living being that is not a human in your home,
Right.
So you may have a pet, you may have a dog, you may have a cat. But if you can't, like your apartment complex does not allow pets, you can have a fish, you can have a betta fish, for example. And something that's alive, and reminders of life in your home. When you do that, when you reproduce the components of a thriving natural environment and bring them into your home, that is when the good feng shui happens. That's when you have the good energy. And so one of the things, that I recently have been insisting for people who are especially my clients and students who live in places with strict lockdowns, like in big cities where there's stricter regulations, is negative ions. Negative ions are so important because negative ions bring some of that health of outside air into the inside. And so, for example, if you have a ionic fan, and I have one in my home,
Right.
and you have a salt lamp, if you have a water fountain, with running water, that releases negative ions into the environment, and that's what gives you that fresh feeling in a home. And so when you don't have some running water, when even like an essential oils diffuser, helps with this. And so that gives you the feeling of freshness instead of the feeling of stagnation into a home. Whenever possible, open windows, open doors, let the air circulate. If you don't do that, it's like a lot of people, have been complaining about emotional and mental health declining.
Right.
And part of that is just being inside without fresh air. This is so important, being inside without enough natural light. There's a lot of people who, when they're inside, they never open the curtains or the window treatments, the blinds, and they just rely on artificial lighting. And so if a person is doing that, of course they're gonna feel bad. And it's not a matter, it's not a matter or they need to think more positively, they need to use their affirmations. It's a matter of physical things that are affecting them. We are light beings. We need the light. We need fresh air. We need the sunshine. And
Right.
so we need to have these things. So one of the first things that I would recommend that you do in your home for 2021 is make sure your windows open smoothly. And make sure you have window treatments that open and close smoothly. Because if they don't, you're not going to use them. And so there's this thing in the back of the mind, like if there was an emergency,
Right.
have your front door, you have your back door, and the windows to get out through, right?
Right.
But if the windows get stuck and your windows don't open, something in the back of your mind is going to trouble you, like, oh, if there was a fire and I was in this room, I would not be able to get out. And so that's one thing. But the other thing is if your windows get stuck, you are going to avoid opening them because it's work. If you have to work your muscles
Right.
to open and close windows, you're not going to do it as often. You're going to avoid it. You're going to cringe at the thought of opening a window. So make sure your windows open and close really smoothly. Then make sure that you have window treatments that are easy to open and close. So like to open your curtain, zoom, it's open. To close it, zoom, it's closed. Anything harder than that is going to discourage you from opening and closing window treatments, So one of my favorite things that is actually in fashion right now is to
Okay.
have metal rods and windows with metal grommets. Those are the easiest, the smoothest to open and close. And so you need to have this ritual. In the morning, you open your curtains. In the evening, you close them. This is another point of contention. The one thing that most people argue with me about is keeping their windows uncovered at night.
All right.
Like for example, some clients have a beautiful view during the day, and they don't realize at night that's just a black box. Your
Exactly.
window becomes a black box, and it drains life force, it drains energy. And so, but a lot of people argue with me, and they say they're just not closing their curtains because they love their open windows. And some people don't even want to have curtains, right? And so we need certain things. You can't be awake all the time. My first baby that is 18 now, um, turning 18, when he was a baby, he never wanted to go to sleep. He acted like going to sleep was a waste of time. And when he got really, really sleepy, right,
Right.
he would take one finger to his eyelid and try to pull his eye open, right? And so it was really difficult. It was very high maintenance because he never wanted to go to sleep. But we need rest, we need sleep, and we need rhythms, and we need more than one thing. For example, people say, "Oh, I love the light," but you don't just need light; you also need darkness. And so another recommendation that I'm going to make sure that your bedroom is pitch black when you go to sleep. There's numerous studies that have shown you get better sleep if you are in complete darkness. So a lot of people are charging their phones on their nightstand, right?
Right.
And there's this little blue light, especially like you're using an Android, they have this little blue light that lights when you're charging something.
Uh-huh.
That blue light, they have done studies, and is one of the things that affects sleep the most. So ideally, you wouldn't have your phone or your tablet or your laptop in your bedroom at all at night. But I know that's impractical because for a lot of people, their phone has become their alarm clock, right?
Exactly. Right.
Yeah, and so put it in a drawer or cover it up with a pretty piece of fabric if you want to keep it on the top of your nightstand, right? But make sure your room is dark at night. You're going to sleep so much better. And so we need these things. In nature, you have very bright light during the day, and you have total darkness if there's no moon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so different degrees of darkness. And so we need to have that at home too. Our ancestors, they slept in caves.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
true. That's very true.
it's
Right.
better when we're in complete darkness. And so this it's essential that you work with nature. Now, what happens if you have a any room in the home with no windows?
Do people
Or
actually have that? Rooms with no windows? Yeah, I guess maybe they do.
yes,
I see a lot of
yeah,
office buildings
like
with no rooms. Yeah,
a lot of bathrooms don't have windows
that's true.
these
That's true.
days.
There are a lot of them that, yeah.
Construction, bathrooms are like somewhere in the home that doesn't get any natural light. And in a lot of apartments and condos, kitchens also don't have windows. It's actually
Yeah.
considered in architecture, it's considered a room that doesn't need a window because you have a vent.
Oh,
And
gotcha.
kitchen, you have a vent over the stove. So it's not considered, for me, it's an essential need to have a kitchen window. But in architecture, when you're designing a high-rise building, towards the center, like you have the elevator, the staircases, and then you have 4 apartments at least on the
Right.
end. And so towards the center, they'll put the kitchen and the bathrooms because those are the rooms that don't need light, right? And so I've had clients that live in really nice apartment complexes, and they only have windows on one side.
Yeah, exactly.
So the one wall is towards the staircase and the elevator, the hallway. Then on the other two walls, there's apartments or condos on the other side, and there's only one wall that has windows, right?
Right.
And so if you are lucky that you get sunshine through your windows, you need to have comfortable, beautiful seating in spots where you can charge with the sunshine like a cat or like a dog, right?
Right.
You have to have those spots. If you don't have those spots, you are not going to get sunshine, especially in the winter. It's hard to get out, right?
Right.
And in every room of your home, so like in some of my clients, like they actually have 2 bedrooms Like it's an apartment with 2 bedrooms, but it's called a 1 bedroom because you can't call it a bedroom if it doesn't have a window, right? So it's
Oh,
called one
okay.
bedroom, yeah. But it actually has 2 bedrooms, and they're using the one room as a bedroom, even though it has no windows. But legally, you can't call it a bedroom; it doesn't have a window.
And
And
is
so
that
they
because there's no exit point? Is that why
Because
it
there's no exit, because in
yeah.
case of emergency, you need to be able to get out, but also because of just hygiene, be able to open the windows, circulate the
Okay.
air and stuff. And so there are some people who are sleeping in bedrooms with no windows. So any place in your home or any spot in your home, like even a hallway, doesn't have a window, doesn't get natural light, you need to bring in images of nature. So images of nature, and it's your mind, like your, I guess we could call it the unconscious mind, doesn't cannot tell the difference between a beautiful view that you see out a window
Right.
and a beautiful view that you see in a painting or in a photograph. Like that, of course you consciously know, but your mind gets the same peaceful, calm feeling from the view of the window.
Because of that, what that third dimensional, direction, it gives that feeling of it. It's kind of like in virtual reality is that way. When you're in the avatar form, the brain says, "Oh, that's a person." It doesn't distinguish between it being a human avatar versus an avatar, right?
You know a lot about that, right? And when you were showing me your virtual reality space, was so
Yes,
cool. When you're going through that, you really feel like you're seeing a three-dimensional space. Or even in
exactly.
the movies, you have that depth perception. Your mind gets full. You know consciously
Uh huh.
that's that screen, but your mind gets full into thinking this is the three-dimensional space, and so you have to use that in order to create this well-being inside of your home. So images of nature are essential. Other things are scents. It is the easiest thing to get used to,
Mm-hmm.
a bad smell. For some
Oh, especially if you got a sensitive nose, right?
people will get, and actually are becoming numb to a bad smell between 1 day to 3 days.
Okay.
People become completely numb. So I remember one time I was invited to a consultation of wonderful, beautiful woman, just really a generous soul, um, very spiritual, very committed to holistic living and everything, right? And she rescued animals. She loved animals and she rescued animals.
Okay.
And I went into her home and I had to run out. I just had to run out because the smell was unbearable. It was unbearable. And so I had to get my bearings. I had to get a lot of oxygen and go back in and try and help her, right? But she couldn't tell. I mean, this was the kind of smell, that if you had been in an apartment, your landlord might have called the police thinking somebody died, okay?
Okay.
And she could not smell it. That is how extreme our adaptation or our ability for numbness with smells is. And
Right.
so, one thing that I recommend is, whenever you have been out of the home for several hours or whenever you come back from a trip, pay attention. Pay attention because, when you are gone for a few days, you're going to smell it again. Pay attention. Whenever you get visitors that you trust enough, that you feel comfortable with enough, ask them about the smell, right? So first you need to make sure there are no sources of bad smells. And second, you need to add the smells of nature to your home. So the feeling you should have in your home is the feeling that you get in the early spring walking through a park that is full of flowering trees. If you don't have that feeling at home, you are disconnected from nature. And so incense is a great way, candles are a great way.
Mm-hmm.
Plugins usually really bad because they have really bad chemicals. And when you get candles, you also have to make sure. I prefer soy candles because the way they burn,
Yeah, so you
they
don't have that wax that's actually
smoke
going
and stuff.
into
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, and they also have these. They're like little squares,
Uh-huh.
that you melt instead of actually lighting fire. So you just
Oh,
put in
yes,
water.
the heated where they
Very
just melt
cold.
on the yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
so something like that. But make sure the ingredients are natural. Make
Right.
sure that you are not, of course, essential oil diffuser also helps. Make sure that you are not adding
Like
ugly chemicals into your environment, right?
exactly.
One thing that American homes do a lot is potpourri.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and that's good, but it has to be in a piece of cloth. It has to be inside something, because when you just, am I saying it correctly? It's potpourri,
Yeah,
potpourri,
potpourri.
potpourri,
Yeah.
potpourri, and when you just leave it out in a bowl, it gets so dusty and it gets so nasty, and most people do not notice, and that can't be clean or dusted. And so, if you're going to
Right.
use that, I recommend you put it in a bag, like in a mesh bag, so that you don't have to deal with the dust. And also because dried flowers are not good feng shui, right? And so
Right.
if you're going to use that, for the aroma, then it needs to be in a bag.
That
So
makes
there's
sense.
so many ways to bring in good smells. But of course, you should not be trying, you shouldn't be using those sprays either, unless they're natural. First of all, make sure there's no bad smells. You shouldn't be using good smells to hide bad smells. You should find a
Yeah,
way
do
to
you
get that
think it
smell.
goes away, but not so much, right?
Yeah, and like one thing that I use is for places that get stuffy, and this has never failed, is I put charcoal, the cheapest, basest
Right.
charcoal you can find with no additives, in a paper bag. And you can put that inside a cabinet or inside a closet that is smelling. You could put several of those in a basement that's smelly.
Mm-hmm.
You can put that in the room where you keep the litter box for the cats, and that will absorb bad smells. You can also put it like in old pantyhose, like the thick pantyhose,
Right.
the kind that is supportive. You can put charcoal pieces in there, and to put it in places that are harder to reach, and that will absorb bad smells.
Yeah,
So
because that pantyhose, that mesh will breathe, right, to
yeah,
absorb. Right.
yes, and the charcoal will absorb the bad smell. So that's one thing that you can do. So the focus should be bringing nature into your home, and then you're going to be a lot happier.
Oh, that makes so much sense. Thank you for sharing that. You mentioned something early on, and you mentioned about being in a box, right? So when we look at, in being in a box and being in other people's homes, right? Not necessarily like we're out there walking in people's homes, because the Zoom, everyone has that background, and it's usually some room in their home, right? And again, it's that natural, they see it all the time as it is, and if it's a mess, it goes unnoticed, but not to the person in observation. So when you're looking at the Zoom, we're in little boxes, right?
Yeah,
And then the element that's
literally, right? We're in this
it
picture.
literally, we are in these little boxes, and again, that kind of goes back into that peripheral too, where you start getting what they're calling Zoom fatigue, right? Especially the hours. I mean, some people spend between 4 and 10 hours a day looking at these little boxes, right, with a lot of other people. So your peripheral camera, right, gets that, top and bottom, right and left. So it goes to those corners, and then it brings it back in to focus on what is in that little box. And if you've got people running around in your background, or if you've got chaos in your background, it's going to affect and impact not only yourself, but everyone that's looking at your little box, right?
Yes, and so our boxes, the parts of our homes that we show, have become our environment.
Right.
And you see, like I have a screen here, right?
Yes.
And so sometimes, when I have meetings, I'll just cover everything else up, and all you see is the screen. And when I'm recording courses, I'll do it like this, and then I'll crop it so you only can see the background. I have gotten so many compliments on this screen. The reason I got this screen in the first place was when I started recording my YouTube videos. My children were still little, and the house was not always in complete order, you know. And so I wanted to
Exactly.
take videos, and I wanted their toys to show in the background. Before, you know, when I had my desk, right now I have a wall behind me. But at some point, you know, I had my desk in between the living room and the dining room, and you could see the dining room in the background. And so I got this screen so that people could look at something beautiful while I was uh, recording the videos, instead of getting distracted by what is that, you know, what kind of a toy
Right,
is.
exactly.
So that's something
Exactly.
people can do. And like with the newer devices, you can actually choose your different backgrounds on Zoom, and there's some really beautiful
Right.
images. And that's another thing that you can do is, if you have a TV, and you can put images of nature on the TV, or the rooms where you have a TV.
Right, and just kind of have
Have
them playing,
the-
because now you can grab YouTube and put it on that TV, where back in the day not so much.
some really nice videos of waves crashing in the ocean, you
Yeah,
know,
so
and
you've got the nice sound
yeah,
again, because you're talking about the senses. So you have the sound, you have the sight, and it's almost as though you can smell it. Again, it's
yeah, yeah.
how the brain gets fooled by the other senses and what it perceives, behind the scene. And you mentioned that the picture behind you and everything that you were talking about here today with bringing nature, right? Bringing nature into the home. There it is. It's nature. It's got, it's like little trees. It's got leaves. It looks like little flower blooms. So it's comforting. And I think that's kind of important too, because we're spending so much time now on the screen, that the background is critical in some cases. And
And your background is also a gift to others, you know.
yes, yeah, yeah. And I find everything that you're saying and how it really relates to the virtual reality world. And I've got my little friend that joined me here from the virtual world, right? And I don't know how she got there. Yeah, there she is, right? And so she's actually known as me when I'm in the virtual reality world, right? I relate to her. My brain actually relates to it, and the more you're immersed into that format, in that background, it becomes second nature. And that's why gaming is such a multi-billion-dollar industry, because the brain says, oh, it's real. Now they have the games that you can actually move yourself into and be a part of these games. So it's your reality, right? It now becomes that reality. So when you're looking at the feng shui, it's what is it that you're immersing yourself in, because the brain will take it for that. It doesn't decipher between, whether it's comfortable or uncomfortable. It just says, oh, this is my new playground, right? And unconsciously, it's going to impact you, and sometimes not in a healthy way. So it's really important to look at that feng shui. What are your children watching? What are they involved in? And some of these games get to be pretty violent, but it becomes a way of life because they're so immersed in it, right?
Yeah, and I think that there is a risk with a lot of our young people having violence normalized.
Yeah, that's a good way to put
With
it.
a video game where they're constantly shooting at something and getting that satisfaction from hitting the target. And so I think it is a concern. I think all parents need to look at that, and all parents need to limit the video game consumption of their children. Their children can do it. Video games are designed to be addictive. And so it's up to the parent, the children's brains, even an
Right.
18-year-old, their brains are not developed enough for them to control that. Their brains develop till 26, 25, 26. That's when the brain is completely done. And so while you have authority over the kids, you should be controlling how much they watch and what they do. My kids, they actually asked me if I would lock down their devices at night. And so they turn in their devices and I lock them in a cabinet so they don't have access to them at night because they were using them in the middle of the night and then they didn't sleep well, then they were not able to study, right?
Right.
So it's so important because that becomes part of the reality. And right now it's difficult for a lot of parents because their children are home and the only way they socialize is video games.
Right.
The only way they get together with their friends is doing video games. So you have to be careful. Also, because we're so focused on the screen right now, you need to every 20 minutes get up, stretch, right? And focus your vision in the distance. Because we're getting used, like my computer right now is maybe 2 feet away from me. And so we're getting used to focus your eyesight at that distance. So you need to, every so often, look out the window, focus your eyes in something that is farther, so
Right.
that your eyes do that camera focusing thing, right?
Right.
And so that keeps your eyes healthy. So that's so important. And what you were saying before reminded me of cell biologist Bruce Lipton, who wrote this bestseller, The Biology of Belief.
Yes, that I love that book. It
Yeah.
really puts things into a different perspective.
Yeah.
And
And
it,
yeah, go on.
it actually flows in with what we're talking about here, and you get an understanding of what that quantum energy is and how unconsciously we're so impacted by the world around us, which is feng shui. And nature is the most balanced, I guess, right? Harmonious form of feng shui, so you're saying bring that nature in. And for me, I love being in nature. And here in Colorado, some nights it's pretty darn cold. It's like, okay, so you bundle all up, and you go out into it. But the human element needs it. We are made of the substance of nature. So it's only, makes sense that we need that to create that critical balance and harmony within the cells of who we are, right?
Yes, and speaking of cells, that's one of the things that Bruce Lipton discovered is in epigenetics, like there's
Yes.
parts of your genes that are expressed like in your physical body, when you're born, and they continue to express throughout your life. But there's a great number of genes that get turned on or off. And that's the science of epigenetics, what genes get turned on or off.
Mm-hmm.
And they get turned on or off based on your perception of your environment, not based on what's going on in your environment, based on your perception of your environment. And that is what Feng Shui controls. Feng Shui controls the perception of your environment. So now my new motto, is the last 2 years has been turn your current home into a dream home. And I know this time of the year, a lot of people are doing their vision boards, right?
Right.
I have friends that do their vision boards religiously every year. Every year they put a mansion there, a different picture of a mansion because they're going to manifest a mansion.
Right.
And so the mansion never materialized. They've been doing this for 12, 15, 18 years. There's still no mansion. And in the meantime, they could have been working to turn their current homes into their dream homes, Plus,
Right.
mansions are overrated. There's a lot of, people think, oh, if I really love myself, if I really believe that I'm worth it, then I need to ask for a mansion, right? That's a lot of the thinking in New Age circles is that today, because the universe is going to give me anything I ask for, so I need to ask for a mansion. Because if I ask for anything less than that, I am devaluating myself, right?
Right.
But in Feng Shui, the standard, the canon of happiness in Feng Shui is the small house full of people you love. Not a house so large you can hear your own echo, right?
Right.
And so people put these mansions on there and they don't realize mansions are overrated. It's not easy to live in a mansion. If you live in a mansion, you have to have staff.
Right.
And you have to like parties a lot because the only way to charge a home, a mansion, is with parties. Because
To
otherwise
get
you're not gonna
that
have
movement,
people
right?
to charge. Yeah,
Yeah.
to bring in the chi, because people charge the spaces with chi, with their own life force. When your home is manageable, then you're putting your energy into the home. And with your family, every family member, your pets. But if your home is so large, there's rooms you never visit, those rooms are not going to get charged. The only time they will get charged if you often have guests or you have large parties, which in the past year have been a real big challenge. And so,
Yeah. Life has changed in the party element, hasn't it? And that makes good sense because again, it creates what you were mentioning earlier, that stagnant energy. So, and we need that movement. Whether it's something, if you've got different forms hanging in, that are moving, especially in the corners where energy gets more stagnant. So if you have just kind of a flow of a material that can move, yeah, right, hanging objects that will move to keep that energy going, right? So that makes perfectly good sense. We also have this kind of instilled belief thing that more is better. So if I have this big mansion, it's gonna fill something. But again, when we look at our main mansion is our human avatar, right? Shall we say, right? Is this body. And it's a certain size. Some people are a little bigger than others, and some of us are a little shorter. But at the same time, if you can be comfortable inside your human body, you're now familiar with what that feng shui and how that harmony happens within you to start fulfilling that around you. You're going to want that harmony and that peace to really understand how do you get that balance. So the information that you shared here today, starting now in 2021, let's take this year and take what you have shared today and really put that into some form of action. So, Moni, if you could share with the audience the things that you explained and shared with so far, how can they put that into action? What would be the simplest things for them to start taking that information and putting it into an action step that's not going to be like overwhelming? It's like, I have to go down, I have to cut all these trees, whatever. Which, I mean, again, you look at, we just came out of the holidays, right? And people have their Christmas trees, whether they're real or not real. It's a picture of nature, right?
Yeah, it's a reminder of nature.
Right. And then if you're into colors, the reds and the green, which are associated with Christmas, those two colors, the energies of that also create a harmony and a balance. So it's important in that feng shui, if I'm hearing everything that you're saying, is to make sure that the colors, and you look at the colors of nature, right? And how they feel differently. In the spring we have what? We have the green. In the fall, what do we have? We have more of the reds and the oranges. So why does it feel different in the fall when you take a walk than in the spring when you take a walk? Yeah. And again, the smells. The spring smell is different from the fall smell, right?
And also, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because one thing I hadn't mentioned yet is you need live plants. Your home needs to have live plants. If you totally don't have a green thumb, then you need a silk plant.
But you got to make sure you dust it off once in a while, right?
A sick plant is worse than not having a plant. So if you are going to kill plants, don't get real plants, get silk plants. Now they look so real. But, your mind is going to get the feeling, and you do have to dust them. You do have to clean them. So the first thing I said is sunshine and air. If you can't do anything else, make sure your home gets at least a few minutes of fresh air every day. And make sure that you become like a cat and hunt some sunshine. Get a little sunshine every day. Obviously, ideally, you would go outside and get a little sunshine in the early morning or the late afternoon. So right before sunset, right? But if you can't do that, then you need to know where in your home do you get the sunshine, at what times, and go sit there.
Right.
And especially if you're locked down for any reason, go sit there, go get sunshine. And that's a way to start, because without energy, you're not going to be able to do anything. And so a memory is coming to me that I think I should share with you. And I was working with a client who suffers from depression. And they were changing her medication, and they just couldn't get it right. And at the same time, she was working with me, and we got to step 4 in my 9 steps to Feng Shui system is about connecting with nature. And so I had her check her windows, check her blinds, her curtains, and everything. And so I got her into a routine, a habit of opening up the curtains, opening up the windows.
Right.
And until that moment, they were trying to change her medication. They couldn't get it right. She was always feeling a little down. And after she started this ritual of opening curtains, opening them completely, like before she would open the curtains, but leave the sheer curtains there. So she never had a clear view of the outside, and she never got a lot of air, sunshine and light coming in, right? So when she started having this ritual of in the morning, opening up a window for at least a few minutes and opening up the curtains and the shears, getting natural light in, then all of a sudden she started doing better, So sometimes it's not something, it's something physical,
Right.
Sometimes it's not something that is going on inside your mind. Sometimes it's not something that's going on inside your heart. Sometimes it's something physical. You're not getting sunshine. You're not getting light. And your body needs these things. When your body doesn't feel well, your mind, your heart are not going to feel well. Your thoughts, your emotions are going to be off. And so I think it was an amazing experience, because whenever she went to her psychotherapist or whenever she went to her psychiatrist, the psychiatrist never said, are you opening your curtains?
Right.
How much natural light or how much sunshine are you getting? These are not questions that we have in our medical system,
Exactly.
And so, yeah, and so it's so important. It's that important that we know that lack of light can affect your mood, especially in the winter.
Because I was just thinking that same thing. They have what they call SADS, right? A seasonal disorder, right? And that is that lack of the sunshine. How many times, listen to how you speak, right? And it's like, oh man, I can't believe it's 4:30 and it's getting dark already, right? So we recognize that, we're missing the light by some of the comments that we make. So become aware of what those comments are, and that can be a solution to what the situation is, right?
And also have some yellow lights at home.
Yes.
A lot of people trying to save energy, trying to be good for the planet, they get lighting in their home that has a blue cast, and that's not going to help you. A yellow light, or get a lamp with a yellow shade. Getting some yellow light is going to give you that feeling of being outside in the sunshine too.
Right.
So there's all these things that you can do, right? But the most important thing is you need to connect with nature, and you need to avoid stagnation inside your home. Your air should not be stagnant, right? If your air gets stagnant, there's just going to be downhill from there.
Right. And I think on one of the other shows you had mentioned, when we talk about that stagnation, start moving things in your house, right? If everything is, you've got something sitting on this desk and it's just always there, always there, always there, move it somewhere else, right? It just, even if it's on the desk, just move it from one side to the other side just to get that movement going, right?
And just to get yourself out of the rut.
Yes.
So if you're always reaching for your toothbrush on the right side, move it to the left side. And that's going to create a break in the patterns that bring you down. So you got to change things once in a while. I have this program, it's called the Feng Shui Dream Home Creation Lab, where people Feng Shui their homes in a group. And we've been talking a lot about living rooms and family rooms, and one of the things for living rooms and family rooms is you do have to change things. There's no perfect way to arrange your furniture because rooms need change. There's other rooms in the home that they don't need change. Like you could have your bedroom arranged the same way for years and years. But the living room, the family room, the great room, the den, they benefit from changing, from moving things around. So try your furniture one way, try your furniture another way.
Mm-hmm.
In addition, when you move your furniture around, you realize all the spots that you were missing from cleaning. Like you think you're doing a good job of cleaning, and then you miss you move a piece of furniture. It's like, oh my gosh, all this dust.
Yeah.
And so healthy practice.
Sometimes you have surprises, it's like, oh, I wondered where that thing went. It's under the
Yeah.
couch. You're right out of sight.
That
Yeah,
necklace I lost, last year is right there.
exactly. Wow. Oh, Moni, this has been absolutely a treat. It's always so much fun having you on. You're so full of great information. And so, everyone, listening here today, comment below. Let us know what you liked most about what she had to say, and what are you going to put into effect for 2021 to get this year moving into some form of harmony for yourself, right? Because we don't know what it's going to bring. We know what we came out of, and the things that were uncomfortable. See what we can do, kind of look at yourself from a different perspective. How can I feng shui me? How can I feng shui my house? How can I bring harmony and peace? I want 2021 to be filled with my perception. And we talked about perception, right? My perception to be the perfect year in business, in fun, in education, and just really getting to know more of how you respond to the world and how you are inside. Who are you? So let's make 2021 as a discovery now of who really am I and how do I balance and harmonize with me so that my exterior environment becomes that harmonious space. So when I do invite people in, whether I'm inviting them in real person, or if I'm inviting them into my little square here, my little box, called Zoom or webinar, whatever the case may be, that it's inviting and people want to be there, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Super important.
Yeah. So one last tip for our audience, what would that be?
I want you to remember that if you want to be happy, and I think every healthy person wants to be happy, happiness needs a place to happen. And that place is your home. So you need to start thinking of how to turn your current home into a dream home. And every day, take some small action toward that. Pick up on some things that are clutter, put them away, give them away, throw them out, whatever you need to do. Clean a little something. Do a little search on the internet or go to a store looking at what things you might add to your home so that your home is more beautiful, more welcoming. But it is a constant thing. Train yourself to constantly think about how to improve your home.
Awesome. When you improve the outside, the inside changes, and when you improve the inside, the outside changes, right?
Yeah.
It's that harmonious balance. Thank you so much. And if they want to reach you, if the audience wants to get a hold of you, I know they can find you all over social media. But do you have a special place you want to send them to?
Well, go to my website, because in my website I have a free course that people can get started with turning their home into a dream home. And the course is called Turn Your Home into a Dream Home.
There you go.
It's going to be a pop-up window, and they can sign up for that. And the website is 9stepstofengshui.com. But I know some people don't know how to spell feng shui, so also spacearrangement.com will take you to that site.
Okay, spacearrangement.com. That's probably easier, right? Because it's a little shorter. Exactly. Well, thank you so much for being here. And now it's time to say, go out there, be that best you that you can be, because Moni and I are going to be the best we that we can be. Thank you all for joining us today, and we'll see you on another show.